Thank you to the Westminster Center for Faith and Service and the Black Student Union for sponsoring this podcast.
All right, listeners, we have Lieutenant Jason Pace here with us today for our second Industry Partner podcast episode. Jason here is with the Missouri State Highway Patrol in the Recruiting and Community Outreach Division. So he's just going to share his story today and he'll answer some of our questions. Alongside me in this episode is Michelle Craighead. We are both seriously, we both work for the Office of Advising and Career Development in the Student Success Center. We hope you enjoy today's episode. So Jason, again, thank you for joining us today. Can you just start off with just sharing your story? What did you go to college for? How did you become a highway patrolman? What's your career path story?
Well, it's not the normal path that probably most would take to get into the career in law enforcement. So first off, I've been on the patrol for about 23 and a half years. Got into the patrol when I was 26 years of age. And basically, kind of lay a little background. I grew up, my dad was a trooper. So I always had a little bit of interest in becoming a state trooper. However, as a young adult, as a teen, you never wanted to admit that, you think your parents are pretty cool until, after the fact, they thought their job was pretty cool. So, but I always admired, again, my father and his profession. And so I always had that at the back of my mind. But when I went into college, I have a degree in business. I went and got a degree in business from Harding University. It's down in Searcy, Arkansas. So I was able to attend there, graduated there with a degree in business. And then I continued to pursue education, getting a master's in public administration from Missouri State University in Springfield. So again, that MPA degree, I was looking into the hospital healthcare administration field. However, being more general, I still had in the back of my mind, I could still use that MPA with my career as a law enforcement. So got into that, graduated with that master's in public administration, got into the healthcare world a little bit. It was a great job. It just was not me. So I kind of, at that point, realized that law enforcement may be the career path for me, looked into it further, tested for it, and here I am today. So, so what I'm getting at is, in life, you may think you have a direction for your life, but when you really come down to it and look to see where you want to spend the rest of your life and every day and how you can be a best of service to the community and just be a contribution to society, this is what I came back to. And 23 and a half years later, I'm glad I made that decision. But all that education, all that has definitely even better myself in this career in law enforcement. You would think, well, how would you use a degree in business? Right now I'm in part of a division and helping to manage several $1,000 budget, over $100,000 budget. Thinking, well, how can my master's in public administration? All of this is interrelated. So even though I went down maybe a different path, or it ended up being, as a result, getting into law enforcement, all of those classes I took and all that training and education have all contributed to who I am and what my job is today.
Yeah. How long were you in the healthcare industry?
Well, actually, whenever I was going through college, I actually got exposed a little bit. I worked in an emergency room as a technician, worked around directly on the hospital side. I actually was looking at even becoming a physician in college. And at that time, I was directed by a number of physicians that I was working with, said, look into the hospital administration route. So I have the degree with the Master's in Public Administration with the healthcare management emphasis. And so I got into that, got into HMO company at the time called Missouri Advantage. and worked for them for several years, and then they were moving. And so that's kind of whenever I decided to not move with that company, and ended up getting into the career path that I'd always had kind of an interest in. So so I'd been around it for a few years, and knew a lot about it. But again, it just was not me at that time.
Yeah. Did you explore other opportunities or other career paths when you were thinking about switching, or did you automatically go to law enforcement as kind of a
No, yeah, I looked into a number of different opportunities. I looked into the hospital administration route. I looked in the insurance business a little bit, with either being an agent or claims. And so, there was a lot of different doors that were open, getting those degrees. And so it just, every door I entered into, that door closed. And so I'm a true believer, and I feel like God led me to this path. And so here I am today, and I'm pleased with it. And here's the deal, with this career, I could feasibly retire here in the next few years, and I could actually start a second career path, and even utilize all that training I had before. So it's been, again, a great path for me, and I feel like I've been of service to the citizens and of this state, and contributed the way I should.
Nice. So you mentioned that you attended Harding University. Can you talk a little bit about what that environment was like? Was that a large school? Is it a small school?
No, it's a private liberal arts college. It's a Christian university. I wanted to attend a Christian university coming out of high school, did not know a whole lot about it. And one of those type deals, at the church, actually, there on the bulletin board, there was a sign that talked about Harding University. So I inquired about that, had an opportunity to play football there for 4.5 years, and it was just a good fit. It's a smaller, they compete at a Division II level, and it's about a 4,000 to 5,000 student enrollment there at the school, and most of the students live on campus, and it's a Christian atmosphere, so it was a perfect fit for me at the time.
That sounds great.
Now, you talked about your dad being a highway patrolman, and you following his footsteps eventually, but was he, or was there another person that was influential to you while you were in college?
Sure, and I'll actually take it even before then. As many of the listeners can I guess kind of relate to this, a coach that I had in high school was very impactful on my life, and in many ways, not just with my career path, but just the way he lived his life, and then overcoming some adversities in his life. He had been told he had a terminal illness in high school, which ended up taking his legs. And so from that point, he thankfully ended up surviving that. But again, he had no legs. And so he was able to overcome that adversity. And you would never know it today. He walks on prosthesis, but anybody that goes through something like that teaches you more than just the X's and O's in a game. Teaches you how to live life, and how to get through issues and struggles in life, and adversity, and how to overcome those, and have a positive attitude. So he was much more than a coach, and so that all of that kind of character building, and what he instilled in us, not just as a team, but as us as individuals, carries over today. And I still stay in touch with him, and he's just as impactful then as today as he was then. And so that's someone that really made a contribution, and continues to make a contribution in my life.
That's awesome.
I think a lot of our athlete listeners would have a similar story to yours, where there's a certain coach, or I guess not even just the athletes, but I think students in general, we usually have, there's one person in our lives that have really struck a chord with us, even if they're not a family member, but they help us figure out what we want to do in life. They help us make decisions, whether or not we have specific conversations with them about it, but just their character and how they go about their daily lives really shows and teaches all of us some valuable lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
No,
great that you stay in touch with him even today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, it is, and even his family, his children, and even more than that, I've seen him overcome disease, life-threatening disease. I've seen him overcome losing a wife to lupus, and raising 4 children. I've seen him overcome, just many struggles in life. And so I think it's easy for us sometimes to get down in life, some of the trivial things in life until you see what people go through, and how strong a person can be, and how encouraging they can be just from some of just daily things that he may deal with in his life. That means a lot to me, just observing that and watching that. So I can go on, but I know we've got more questions here.
So you talked about your coach as being an influential person for you as a young person and as an individual going through college. What about as a professional person? Do you have anyone that you feel is pretty influential in your life at this stage in your life with the Highway Patrol?
Sure. I think through every stage in life, you have mentors. You look up to people, and with different levels of your career too. As a brand new trooper, you come on and you have what's called a field training officer period, which you spend 4 months coming out of the academy with that. So you look up to that officer, and because they're the ones teaching you, they're applying all that you learned from the academy and all the book knowledge and applying it to the road. And so you look up to that individual that's training you on how to put all that together. And then from that point, you're on your own, and then you look at your supervisors, your zone sergeants, and looking up to them. And I can even go back and tell you many, many stories just from the supervisor that I had when I first started in the Lebanon, Missouri area, and the impact he had on my life and the trooper I am today. And then as you advance throughout your career in 20 plus years, you start looking at that, and you really take the qualities and attributes from a number of different supervisors and employees, and it doesn't have to be a supervisor, even a coworker, that you see and traits that you believe in, and you basically blend it and mold it into who you are today, and try to be the best person leader that you can be for the organization.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great description of what it means to be professional. We've talked to students about the idea of professionalism, and you have to be professional in your internship, or you have to be professional in your job interview. But what does that really mean
Mm-hmm.
in the day-to-day life? How do you portray someone who's professional? And I think your description right there is a perfect example of what that means, where you really look at your mentors, you look at your coworkers, and you take the traits and the things that other people are doing that you appreciate and that you value, and create your own sense of professionalism. And that right there is what it is. That's great.
And that is just one. We have core values within the Missouri State Highway Patrol. We have eight core values, 8 words that we stand for, and professionalism is one of them. Integrity, character, commitment, and so when you talk about professionalism, that is the foundation. These 8 principles are the foundation of our organization, and so that right there is who we are as the Highway Patrol. And it's much more than just the trooper positions. We have around 2,500 employees. Half of those are civilian jobs, and so but coming into our career as an employee of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, the first thing you learn are the core values of the Missouri State Highway Patrol and what we stand in, what we believe in. And so when you talk about professionalism, that is definitely what we are committed to, and instilling again, these values in each one of our employees. And if those employees are not on board with these values, then they're neatly going to be released or find another job, because we don't tolerate anything that's not meeting those values that we stand for.
Mm-hmm. I was going to add on to that. What kind of skills or experience do you guys look for in your interns or new hires, besides obviously having these character traits that you're talking about?
Well, we obviously, you've got to have a love for the job. This is a career path. This is not just a job. This is a career with our organization. So yes, you can take a test. You can go through the written. I'm going to talk specifically right here on the trooper position. You can go through a written exam. You can go through a physical training test, board on your board. Those are some of the same things that you would go through with any job. But once we delve kind of into it further, we're going to find out what kind of person you really are. We're going to do a full background investigation. We're going to do a polygraph exam. We're going to find out we are hiring the right person for the job. Now, I will also say we don't do the polygraph. We don't go to this extent. We don't have you meet with a psychologist to determine. It's not an interrogation. It's we all make mistakes. Okay. I made plenty of mistakes in my past, but what I can tell you as listeners out there as students, it's how you're going to learn from that mistake. Not with a career, not just with law enforcement, that any of the career paths, majority of career paths you're going to get into, these employers, they're going to look at you to make sure they're hiring the right person for the job. And if you continue to make wrong choices over and over and over, that can be a red flag. That can be a red flag for any employer out there. And so, you ask yourself, if you are hiring that person, would you want to take on that risk and those red flags? Of course not. So again, none of us are perfect, but are we learning from our mistakes? If we're not learning from our mistakes and making yourself a better person, then not just in the business world, not just as your career path, but as a person, it's gonna cause issues for you in the future. And so again, that's what we stand for. We stand for making good choices, making good decisions. Yes, you can take the test, you can go through, you can be physically fit, but when it really comes down to it, are you the type of person that we are looking for to represent the Missouri State Highway Patrol, to wear this uniform, to be in a civilian capacity? And then that's one of the other core values, integrity. Do you have the integrity, the character to be a part of this organization? Because if you don't, and there's a lot of confidential situations, there's a lot of situations with a career in law enforcement that if you are not hiring the right person for the job, if you're not hiring an honest person for the job, then that can become a huge issue for our agency. And so that's why we go to the extent, that's why we spend 9-10 months or so going through all these steps, and we're sure we're hiring the right person for the job, because we don't want any problems with our agency. We don't want a black guy. We don't want a problem child coming in and causing a bad name for our organization. And even when they're on, we hold you still to the high standard, because if there's anything that again goes against our core values, then we don't want them a part of the organization for those very reasons.
Can you have a student with they would be a student when they applied for the patrol, but if they had a misdemeanor on their record, would they be considered for a role in the highway patrol?
Yes, depending on what kind of misdemeanor it was. What I could tell you is really if you've had any felony convictions, that is basically immediate disqualifier.
Yeah.
If you had a felony conviction, there's others that may cause a red flag. A felony conviction, of course, any crimes involving aggression, violent behavior, domestic assault. So you can have a misdemeanor, and you can have had maybe some charges or issues in the past, but again, it's going to have to be looked at on a case-to-case basis when we're doing the background investigation, unless you again are a convicted felon.
Okay. Jason, if you could give advice to our listeners who might be interested in a law enforcement career, either as a trooper or in a civilian role, what advice would you give them regarding networking? What's the best way to learn and to find out about opportunities within the field?
Well, kind of like alluded to earlier, what's your gut telling you? I talk with a lot of people that have gone different routes, and years after the fact, they come back and say, all these years I've always wanted to be in law enforcement, wanted to be a trooper, always wanted to be a police officer, and so what I'm telling you, with any career, what is your gut telling you? Yeah, I could have made more money in other careers. I could have had maybe gone to some different paths, but this is a job that I feel a calling to. I feel of service to the community. You're helping people a lot of times in their greatest need. The majority of people that we are dealing with and working with are law-abiding citizens. They do the right thing. They just made a mistake, maybe gone, over the speed limit a little bit, or whatever the mistake was, or involved in a traffic crash. It's what we train for, that very small percentage on how to deal with situations, rare as it may be. We have to be taught. I kind of equate it to like a lifeguard. You don't see a lifeguard jumping into the water and saving a drowning child on a daily basis, but they are trained on how to do that. Same with officers. We hope and pray we never have to use any of this equipment that we put around our waist, but we're trained on know how to do it. And then when a situation arises where you or ourselves are put in harm's way, then we know how to react, and we're trained properly in order to do that. But thankfully, we don't have to use this very often, just like as with the lifeguard. So to answer your question, we are looking for that person. This is not a career for everyone. So we understand this may not fit the right personality type for all career paths, for all applicants. And that's why we have a psychologist at the very end that will you'll have an 800 question test. You'll meet with them one-on-one. They determine if you're the right fit for this job. So we even go to that extent at the very end. So if you think you have an interest as a young adult, even in high school, we offer a number of avenues. We have youth academies. Our division offers youth academies for high schoolers. There's also what's called Missouri Boys and Girls State. That's in Warrensburg, where those are for high school students, and they can go through a law enforcement curriculum to learn about law enforcement and specifically the highway patrol. There also is a cadet academy in Jefferson City. We typically offer in June. Those are ages for 16 to 19, where they spend a week at our academy in Jefferson City and getting an idea of what to expect. They're in uniform. They're in our dormitories. It's kind of a little abbreviated version of our academy. So those are things that they can get into while they're in high school. Now, once they're in college, then there may be some more doors that will open. You can depending on which troop, and I will tell you a lot of this is pre-COVID. So with some of COVID, we have some restrictions in place now because of COVID. But I will tell you, once all this passes, we will get back on board with a lot of our internships. Internships are typically for juniors or seniors, 2.5 grade point or above. We'll have a small background done on them, and sometimes they go through an interview board in order to get to that point. And this is not just with a trooper career, but we have a number of different internship opportunities within the Highway Patrol. So if you're interested maybe in the lab position or working in our human resources division or being a trooper, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. Majority of those are unpaid internships, but it's again a tremendous opportunity. So I will tell you, the internships that I've been involved in and helped with and supervised, it is more than just sitting behind a desk and shuffling papers. And we literally get that student out there, and you'll ride numerous shifts with the officer. You'll get to be exposed to a number of the other divisions that we have, the civilian divisions. We have commercial vehicle officers, driver's examiners, radio operators, the civilian jobs, and then even within the patrol itself for the trooper, there's a number of different career paths. We have not just the road officer, but we have our criminal investigators, we have our pilots, we have our bomb squad, public information, canine, water patrol. I can go on and on. So that is, for the troopers, the interns that we have had, and even some of the advisors at the colleges that we deal with, thankfully they say the Highway Patrol has one of the best, if not the best, internship program, because you are exposed to the job itself. You get to have a great idea, a better understanding of what you want. If this meets your personality type the best, you get to see what it's like being out there on the road. You get to see what the troopers do when they investigate a crash. And sadly, you may be exposed to very, very sad situations on how those officers have to deal with a family that's may have lost a loved one and having to go and make that knock on that door. And so you see the worst and best of situations in this career path. And so you can then, after it's all over, yes, you get college credit hours for it, but you also get an opportunity to ask yourself, is this what I want to do for the next 20 to 30 years? And so we've got that opportunity as well. We do offer ride-alongs as well outside the internship program, but it's on a more limited scale. So,
yeah, Jason, for the internship, is that year-round, or are they mainly in the summer? What kind of time period is that?
Again, whenever COVID's not an issue, it's typically year-round.
Okay.
I know some of the troops that I've been involved in, they have offered them every semester, both the fall and spring semester, and even in the summer. And we've held multiple interns at one time. We've done two or three at a time. So they're just great opportunities. I will tell you, the majority of interns that I have worked with over the years, they are now troopers today. So it made a positive impact on them.
Yeah. If we have listeners here today listening to you talk about the Highway Patrol and the internship program, what would you tell them is the best way to find out internships, or even
so again,
yeah.
So again, once you start getting close to your junior, senior year, you can go on our website. It's under the Human Resources Division site. You will see a tab there where you can click on that and you can download the information on that. There is an online application for the internship program. And I will also tell you need to have that application in 45 days prior to the start of the semester. So you need to be, it is a competitive process. You need to be early. And I'm not saying, I mean, we have 9 troops in the state. So there could be potentially opportunities where you can go back home, apply for internship, and be able to do that over the summer if you're returning back home, or for the semester if you're learning virtually. So, so get it in early. Continue to make good choices for yourself, because we will do a small background on you. It's not a full trooper background where you do the polygraph, but I cannot stress the importance. You're asking about qualities of police positions, or employees of Highway Patrol. We will literally go back to high school. We will go back to college. We will go back and talk with old teachers and counselors and boyfriends or girlfriends and employers, and we want to make sure we're hiring the right person for the job. And so be careful of what your decisions you're making now. Be careful of because those, again, so many times I talk with applicants, great applicant, great resume, but when you get into some of their background decisions, they're eliminated from the process because of some of the decisions they made in their college years and their high school years. And so it saddens me to see decisions that you're making at a young age like that keep you from getting into the career path that you've always wanted to get into, because of some stupid decision that you made, whenever you were, with your buddies that influenced you the wrong way. Or so that's one thing. Finances, we will look into your finances, ensure that you're making good decisions financially, because we will do a full background check within your credit history and so forth. Be careful what you post on the internet. You can learn a lot from a person on social media. So we're going to do a full background, including social media, your finances, your background, you're going to college. And so we are making sure we're hiring the right person for the job.
Yeah. Jason, I'm curious with the troopers specifically. Do you get many female applicants, or is
You're
it
broken up.
do you get many female applicants, or
We do. It does fluctuate, and we are always in need for female applicants, of course, but it fluctuates, class to class. So I don't have the specific numbers on the current class we have now or the even upcoming. We try to hold a class every 6 months. So our academy is in Jefferson City, Monday through Friday with your weekends off. It is a paramilitary type training, uniforms, shorter hair for the guys and shorter hair for the female, where you can pull it up as a female. And so you are being paid the whole time. Starting salary for a trooper as you're going to the recruit is right at $50,000. And then that will increase after you graduate. And then with rank and years of service, that will also accumulate as well. So but to answer your question, yes, we have many female troopers on today, and we are always seeking more. For sure.
One of my questions to you, because we were talking about on the background check that you do on your candidates, if there was a perfect highway patrolman, what kind of or patrolwoman, what kind of attributes for success would they have in order to be, to fulfill your requirements for that?
Okay. Well, like I said, none of us are perfect, so
Yeah.
we're not looking for the best. But what I can tell you is, I'll just kind of go through some steps. So on the written exam, someone that's very proficient in English, reading comprehension, spelling, grammar. There is some math. Believe it or not, yes, you use math in a career in law enforcement. We may work a crash where a car is at a high rate of speed, ran off the road, hit a rock bluff, turned over 3 or 4 times, maybe burst into flames or whatever the case is. So you go back and think, all right, how did this accident happen? Well, that's where you apply your math. That's where all the physics and the algebra and all those equations you thought you would never use in high school, guess what? Now you're having to put that into a speed equation. You're measuring the skid marks or the yaw marks on the evidence of the scene. There may not be any witnesses to the scene. You may drive up and here's this crash scene where a person's lost their life. So you're having to tell the story for that person, for that crash, what happened. And so that's why it is so important, some of these subjects, to have a very good understanding of what it involves, because it could literally determine a lot when you're dealing with cases like this and the outcome, especially if it's criminal in nature. So those are some things on as far as the education side. Of course, you've got to be a people person. You deal with the public every day. You have to be able to have a good communication skills. In the majority of time, our goal is to relieve a situation, to combat a situation by just our presence, through communication. And that's why, growing up, your parents would always say, talk this out, communicate. And that is our goal, is to be able to communicate yourself out of a bad situation, because we never ever want to escalate into, again, using anything on my belt that I would have to use. And so that's where important communication, be able to work with people and handle people, and then some of the most stressful situations, being able to deal with that. You have to be physically fit. We go through a PT test, 1.5 mile run, push-ups, sit-ups, a 300-meter sprint. So you have to keep yourself physically fit. This job, again, as I mentioned, is not a job for everybody. But if you like variety in your job, if you like helping people in their greatest times of need, if you like working shift work, if you don't mind working in the heat of the day or cold conditions, being out in the public, if you're wanting a job that you want consistency every day, maybe in a climate controlled atmosphere behind a desk, this may not be the job for you. But if you want a job where I mentioned all this variety, this may be a good fit for you too. So it is a very rewarding career. And again, at the end of the day, you're helping people in many ways that you would have never ever thought that you could contribute to society. And this is what makes this career path so rewarding. But back to your, you also asked, I already went into all the background, the personality, and the integrity, and all those things. So we're asking who the perfect person is. All those things combined makes the person exactly who we're trying to look for.
You were talking about, helping families or individuals in their worst moments. I can imagine some of the situations you found yourself in with, the public. But can you tell us more about what are the more challenging parts of this job besides, maybe coming across an accident where somebody lost their life, which of course I would imagine would be the absolute worst day on the job.
Yeah.
Are there any other challenges?
Yeah. I mean, if you'll ask any officer out there, what is the worst part? That is the worst part. It's having to go and work that bad crash where someone has lost their life. And then if that's not bad enough, then having to walk up to that door and make that knock and inform a family member that they've lost their son or their daughter or husband and wife because of a wrong choice. And these are traffic crashes. These are caused by a mistake, whether through speeding. Majority of our crashes are fatal crashes are through speeding. Distracted driving is the leading cause of all crashes. No seatbelt. So these are things that, lives that could have been here today because, but because of a poor choice that was made either by themselves or someone else, that again, it's changed their life and their family's life forever. So that is the worst part. Anytime you wear a bulletproof vest, you recognize the risk involved in a career in law enforcement. Thankfully, those numbers are low across the board. It's low within our agency, and that's where the training comes into play. That's why training is so important, because of situations you may encounter that deal with. It can literally be a life or death decision based on going back through training. And so, those are the big things that I can think of. The worst part of our job is the risk of losing your life. Just if you join the military, you have that inherent risk. You understand what you're signing up for. But again, thankfully, those numbers are very few with our agency.
How long, and if you don't know, it's okay, but do you know on average how long do individuals stay employed as a trooper? How long do they stay in the career path?
The majority of troopers.
Is there a high rate of burnout with the job?
As far as I'll just talk on the trooper career. The majority of people that start their career as a trooper end up retiring as a trooper. I don't know the exact number. We graduated 40 in our class. I would say, it's in the 20s, high 20s, mid to high 20s that are still working even today. So most people that get into this field, and I've had talk with people that try to use maybe the patrol as a stepping stone, maybe getting some federal agencies. But once they get into the job, they ended up realizing they really like it. And so they end up staying and retiring from the highway patrol. So, without having those numbers in front, I couldn't tell you exactly, but I will just say majority of people I know have retired from the patrol. And you can retire, coming in for me, it was a formula based on an 80 and out formula, kind of like what teachers have, where your age plus your years of service, when that combines to make 80, that's when you're eligible. So, I could feasibly retire if I wanted to at the age of 53. I mean, I already know the month and date whenever I can do that here in a few years. But for a trooper, I will tell you, they have to retire at age 60. So that is mandated. So regardless of what position you hold with the patrol, if you're behind the desk as an administrator, or if you're working the road on a daily basis as an officer in this uniform, you have to retire at age 60.
What's the reason behind that? Is it to just protect them because of the age, or is it to help?
That's always been in place. Yeah, that's always been the policy, been the law for us since I've come on. Without speaking out of turn, I mean, I don't know. I think just as you get older, I think things change, and as you reaction time changes and things of that nature. And I'm not saying that an older adult couldn't do the job just as well as a younger adult, but I'm not sure why that was put into place years ago, but that is the case for the trooper position. One of the best recruits that we ever had that went through our academy, I remember he was 53 years of age. He was a retired drill instructor from Fort Leonard Wood, and he was competing with all these other recruits in the academy. Probably average age was 26 years of age, and he definitely excelled over any of those other recruits. So the age is, even though if you look at the age as a whole, there are changes that take place, reaction time and vision and things like that as you get older, but that doesn't say that you can't do the job just as well as a younger adult. So I'm not sure. That would be a human resources question, but that's beyond my explanation there.
Jason, my dad, I was just telling Mandy before the interview started, my dad retired from the Highway Patrol. He's from Jefferson City.
Okay.
And served in Vietnam 2 tours, came back and became a radio man for the Highway Patrol, and moved he and my mom up to Lee Summit and retired from, is it Troop A in Lee Summit?
Troop A. Yes.
Troop A, that's where he retired from. So I'm wondering if my dad and your dad may know each other.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So we'll have to talk after the interview ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, he retired at 50 or somewhere abouts there when I was in high school, and he went on to Lafayette County, which is about 2 hours away, and he helped set up their 911
Okay.
system. So he was able to retire and kind of move into
Sure.
additional, public service work, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, like with your dad's position, so that's a great position with our communications division. So you've got a couple of routes you can work, as a communications officer, or a lot of times people know them as like a dispatcher. Or you can be on the technical side where you can do the engineering side as far as probably what your dad did, as far as administration of all the communication side, the towers, even the equipment, all the equipment that's in our vehicles is installed by representatives, employees of the patrol with our communications division. So that is a uniform civilian job. They do not have to go through the same academy. Now that is a job they can work beyond age 60. It's a great opportunity. And what you'll find out with a career in Highway Patrol, we are one big family. So regardless if you're wearing a uniform, a blue uniform, or brown uniform, or gray uniform, or no uniform, a civilian job where you're in civilian clothes, we are a big family of close to 2,500 employees that are accomplishing the same goal to provide service and protection to the citizens of Missouri. And that is a way that your dad was of service to the citizens of Missouri by contributing in that way. And I thank you for his service.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Jason, you mentioned, there's all kinds of different departments that and divisions that students could get into within the Highway Patrol. We've talked quite a bit about becoming a trooper. How easy is it, or is it a normal occurrence for an individual to start their career within the Highway Patrol, but then move from department to a different department within the organization? Is that kind of lateral movement available, or promotions available within
Absolutely.
the patrol?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll speak again on the trooper career, and that's what makes our agency so appealing, is because you do have a number of different opportunities you can get into. If you want to work the road, which that is our main function of the Highway Patrol, working as a road officer. If you want to get into other avenues, those opportunities are available. So like I mentioned, some of those other specialty divisions, typically after around 3 years of working as a road officer, you are eligible for, again, opportunities that could be SWAT, could be Marine Operations, Canine Officer, Criminal Investigator, Public Information. I will just tell you my particular career. I started off as a trooper in the Lebanon area. I transferred over into the Springfield, Greene County area, worked there for a few years. I got into recruitment with our human resource division, did that for a few years. And then the past 8 years or so, I served as our public information officer for the Southwest Missouri region. And basically you are the spokesperson for that region. And so that's what I did over the past 8 years. And then up until June of last year, I received a promotion moving back into the recruitment, and then they've added the community outreach aspect to our division. And so that is what serve as assistant director for that division now, and it's based out of Jefferson City, but we are responsible for all the recruitment and community outreach efforts for the state of Missouri. So that just shows you from my path how many different examples that you can get into. So really the sky's the limit if you want to get into those fields. And then I know officers that have worked their whole career as a road officer, and so that's again, that's our main function, and so it really depends on your interest level, and that's what makes it so appealing. With our another specific region, I talked about math and physics. We have crash reconstruction officers, so we have people that love math, love physics, love geometry, and their sole purpose is going to some of these major crashes and literally reconstructing that crash over the next several weeks to months. And so again, there's a tremendous number of career paths available. And on the civilian side, you can get into the civilian career path, and you maybe work as a clerical in the human resource division. You decide you may want to become a driver's examiner. You may want to get into commercial vehicle officer. And the great thing is that's all state time. So you can move to these and you're still under the same umbrella of the Highway Patrol, but your retirement, your benefits and all that continue. Even as a sometimes summer employment for MoDOT or even for the patrol. I know of troopers that have gotten on just to begin their benefit package, becoming a clerical or maybe a civilian employee just to start working for the patrol so they can carry that on as they become a trooper. So lots of opportunities.
I think that's great, and I'm really glad that you are have offered to be our guest today on the podcast, because I think when most people think about the Highway Patrol or police departments or really law enforcement in general, you really just think about the officers, and you don't really think about or give much notice to the civilian workers or the opportunities within the civilian side of things. So hopefully our listeners today have really paid attention and have heard about all of the variety of opportunities within the patrol, even if they may not be interested in the law enforcement aspect. There's so many opportunities. I do want to mention that, and that this is a shameless plug for one of our office resources, but we do receive, our office receives the Highway Patrol job openings pretty regularly through email. And so we post those openings in our WCCN resource. That's the Westminster College Career Network. And you can find that on the Career Development tab of My WC. There's a community within WCCN called Hire a Blue Jay. That's our job board. So when we get these job announcements from the Highway Patrol, we post them on that community. So if listeners, if you're interested in the Highway Patrol, and I do encourage you to look at the website, we'll post a link to that for you to have, but you can also look at that Hire a Blue Jay community to see the current jobs.
Yeah, and I guess I haven't mentioned this, but you're right. The job postings that you receive, those actually are updated every couple of weeks or so, as you're probably aware.
Yeah.
So there's numerous jobs that are out there that come open for about a 2-week period. So you've got to always go onto our website and watch for those, because we have over 60 civilian jobs for the Highway Patrol. So, I mean, anything, we have our own attorneys, we have our own mechanics, we have our own clerical, custodial. There's some people that may want to get in law enforcement, but they may not necessarily want to wear the uniform or carry the gun. And so we have like lab positions that these are individuals with some sort of natural science degree, chemistry, biology, and so these are people that our officers go out and work a crime scene, and they bring the evidence to these individuals, and so they are the ones that are responsible for analyzing this evidence to determine the outcome. So you may want to be, a lot of times people look at CSI and watch these type of shows on TV. So if you don't want to necessarily go and be the law enforcement officer and go to the scene, but you want to be behind the scenes and helping to solve crimes, this could be another avenue for you as well.
That's great.
Yeah. So Jason, we're winding down on our time here. So we just want to ask our last kind of official question, but what is a question that you've never been asked before, but you'd really like to be asked?
Oh my.
And it could be, it could be job related. It could be, related to our conversation here. It could be some random question that you've never been asked, but have really wanted to answer. But what do you think? Is there a question?
You may have to come back on that one. That's the great thing with, when you're a public information officer, you've been asked about every question in the book.
Yeah.
And so when you're on, live broadcast so let me think on that. Let's go to the next one here.
How about instead of that, what is the most?
Do we have a phone a friend or anything like this?
Well, I'm gonna switch up the question here. Okay. What is the most random question you've been asked, or what's the funniest question you've been asked as a trooper?
It's not, especially when I was doing again live radio and things of that nature. They're always asking questions. Well, how fast can I go, or how to get out of that ticket and all that. So the answer to that is,
well, crying is not the answer, because I've done that twice, not even on purpose, and I still get a ticket.
The answer to that though is, if you just obey the rules of the road and obey the law, then you're not going to have that problem. And so here's the deal: speed limits are set for a reason. They are put into place because we know that if you go over that speed limit, your chance of being involved in that crash are far greater. So if you're, there's no limit, there's no magic number. I will tell you, we're not looking for all those at a certain miles an hour over the speed limit. If you're over the speed limit, you're in violation law. You are subject to being stopped. But again, what our job is to ensure that everybody returns home safely, that arrives from their destination safely. So again, whatever the speed limit says, and where there's no quotas we don't receive a toaster at the end of the month if we get a certain number of tickets. Matter of fact, it's against the law to have any type of quotas. And so I will tell you, the patrol police officers, they give far more, I'd say 3 or 4 times more verbal warnings than we do. We don't, our goal is not to go out and write a bunch of tickets. Our goal is to make sure motorists are in compliance with the laws. And if they start, again, exceeding that speed limit or not complying with those laws, driving carelessly, then we are there to ensure that they are, again, reminded of how to drive. So that's our job. We are not robots. We are human beings. We have compassion on people. We understand their situation. I stopped a lady that literally they were exceeding the speed limit, and they deserved to be stopped. But after I made contact, she was having her child, or the passenger was having the child right there in the car, and so they were in a hurry to get to the hospital. So, not that it makes it right to speed, but what I'm saying is, we have compassion on people. We are understanding of situations like that, and of course we it was so close. I got an ambulance for him, and she probably ended up delivering in the back of that ambulance from that point. So anyway, that does not give you an excuse to speed or anything, but those are just circumstances that we deal with.
Yeah. Well, Jason, we're coming to the end, and before we do our rapid fire questions, we're going to do the word of the day contest. So for our listeners, again, we're going to have Jason share his word of the day. And if you send that word to careersrv@wcmo.edu, you will be entered to win a gift card. And so for the word of the day contest for this podcast episode, it will run from 4 p.m. November 13th. I was about said October for some reason. So 4 p.m. November 13th through 4 p.m. November 20th. So listen to this episode, hear the word of the day from Jason, email that to us, and you could win a gift card. So Jason, what is the word of the day?
Okay, the word of the day is actually one of our 8 core values. And I've talked about some of them already: the integrity, responsibility, respect, professionalism, compassion. But this word means a lot to me, the word character. And I'm going to read this definition to you, and you can find these on our website as well. But character, what is defined as, we're committed to respecting individual dignity in all people, and to provide services in a fair, consistent, and impartial manner to the best of our ability. As caring and innovative professionals, the men and women of the Missouri State Highway Patrol will strive to maintain a safe environment through a service-oriented organization capable of addressing the most complex challenges that confront us. So under that umbrella of character falls a lot, the character, the integrity of the person, professionalism. So if you hold yourself in with these standards, specifically the character you have means a lot. That your character is going to live on forever. They're going to know you by your character and all the things that you've done as a person. And if you break that trust with somebody, if you have a character that cannot be respected or trusted, then that's where you have the problems come into play, not just with this community, but with your family, with friends, or whatever. The character you have speaks volumes. So that's my word of the day.
That's awesome. I think it's a great word. All right, so we've come to the exciting point of the interview. the rapid fire questions. So we have 6 questions. These are inspired by James Lipton, who hosted Inside the Actors Studio. I don't know if you've ever seen those episodes. But oh my gosh, I can't speak. Clay cut that part out. Okay. He would interview actors and actresses, and he would always close his interviews with these questions or similar questions. So, are you ready?
I don't know if I'm ready, but let's try.
We're gonna start. First question: what is your favorite word?
Favorite word? Personally for me, the word, well, I've got actually several of them. God-fearing Christian. I think, if you put God first in your life, for me personally, everything else falls into place, because you've got your guidance there. You've got your, the standards that you live by. If you are a God-fearing a Christian, if you represent that, then again, I think everything, not that it's going to be perfect, but I think you have a guide there. I also like the word discipline or commitment as well. There's, as I talked about my coach going through all the issues and adversity that he's gone through, and we're, I'll never forget, he would always put us on the line and get us ready to run. And he said, okay, it's 4th quarter, guys, get on the line. And so even whenever life gets rough, and you're on you're a difficult situation, you're already in that 4th quarter of life, know that you always have strength, and a guide and confidence, knowing that you've got, again, these are my personal beliefs here, that you've got God on your side, getting you through that. and there is an ultimate end at the end of the race, or ultimate reward at the end of the race. And so those are things that kind of all interrelated, probably more than what you're asking, but that's some of my favorite.
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
That's great.
What is your least favorite word?
Quit.
Yeah.
Just the opposite of what I meant. The
Yeah.
least favorite is quit,
Mhm.
because we are society influence. They try to tell you to quit. And a lot of things that we deal with is you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, and so to overcome that and having the strength to persevere through that, that's what it's all about.
Mhm. I don't know about you all, but I love a good motivational video. If you
Yeah.
Google, if you search it on YouTube, motivational videos, man, they really get you going.
Yeah.
I love it. What sound or noise do you love?
I love nature. I love sitting alongside a creek and hear the crickets and the frogs and just the natural sounds of life, getting away and having that time of quietness and just God's nature.
Mhm. What sound or noise do you hate?
Probably the screeching of a chalkboard with your fingernails.
Yeah.
That's one of yeah.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I coming from sporting background, athletic, I always enjoyed, I've coached my children and coached other youth activities, so I've always enjoyed being involved in sporting activities and having influence on people's life in that way. And so so that would be a career path if I could ever be. I think it'd be fun to be a college or even a professional coach, but I know the demands that come with that as well, so I think it'd be fun.
Okay, last question. What profession would you not like to do?
I guess from experience growing up on a farm, I know what it's like to having to shovel the manure from a stall of a barn, and and that was probably one of my least desirable traits. And so I would hate to have to do that full time. I know that it's necessary, but that was not a fun job for me.
I think I'd agree with you. Well, Jason, I want to thank you again for being our guest today. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We will have more employer industry partner podcast episodes in the spring semester, as well as more alumni podcast episodes. So enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday, enjoy your winter break, and we will see you in the spring. Thanks,
Thank you
Jason.
for the opportunity. And again, to put a plug in, if anybody's interested, you're welcome to contact 1-800-796-7000. It will take you to any recruiter throughout the state, or just go to our website, motrooper.com. As we talked about, there's trooper positions, and then there's over 60 civilian jobs that you can learn about on our website. So I encourage you to look in there and continue to make good choices for yourself. You're in control of your life, and continue to make good choices and open as many doors as you can, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.